Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. Ex-Nickelodeon star Drake Bell is sentenced to probation for inappropriate contact with a minor. The young girl calling for a higher sentence. The actor apologizing.
I accept this plea because my conduct was wrong.
The defense case of a Colorado father accused of murdering his own son. Mark Redwine's expert witness and the tough cross-examination. Plus, the new lawsuit filed in the Breonna Taylor case claiming police may be lying about the existence of body cam video from the deadly raid. And the giant misunderstanding. An arsenal of weapons found near the MLB All-Star Game site, officials saying this was not a mass shooting attempt.
That is the number one lesson for all of us, is if you see something, say something.
Law and Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. Former Nickelodeon star Drake Bell is sentenced to 2 years of probation to crimes against a minor. But the then 15-year-old victim is calling him a pedophile and says she believes he should have received the maximum sentence. Jared Drake Bell pled guilty last month to attempted child endangerment and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. Immediately, he took to Instagram to perform live for his 4 million followers.
Well, I never thought that it'd be so simple, but I found a way,
Bell was arrested for inappropriate contact with a 15-year-old girl. We are not identifying her because of her age. In court, the young woman said she was groomed for years by Bell, that he took advantage of her because she was a superfan, and that the two exchanged sexual messages and nude photos. She says it escalated in December 2017 when her aunt took her to Bell's concert in Cincinnati.
That night, the defendant took me backstage to be alone with him. He started kissing me, and the night ended in him having me perform oral sex on him twice. The next incident happened on December 2nd, 2017, while I was alone with him in his hotel room. He had talked to me about seeing me one last time before we all left Cleveland and went home. So we went to his hotel to say goodbye. In his hotel room, he started kissing me and had me perform oral sex on him again. My aunt was right outside the room waiting in the hallway while this was happening.
She says she's now traumatized and asked the judge not to let him get away with it just because he's famous.
If he is truly sorry for anything, he is sorry that he has finally been caught. I can assure you of that. He committed these crimes against me with pride. A defendant who clearly feels no remorse for his crimes deserves to be given the maximum sentence possible. I will never forget what he did to me. I idolized and looked up to him, and he took that and broke it in the most sickening way possible. He is the epitome of evil. I deserved better than to be used for his sick desires and for my suffering to be used for his amusement. Jared Drake Bell is a pedophile, and that is his legacy.
Bell's attorney then took aim at the victim's credibility, calling her claims that they exchanged photos unfounded.
We went through these claims with the prosecutor's office for a long time, approximately 18 months. No such image was presented, either to the state or to the defense. The claim that he is a pedophile lacks any sort of factual support from the case, and it also lacks any sort of mental health claim. It's an easy tag to give someone, but doesn't fit in this case.
Bell's attorney went on to explain that Bell is only accepting responsibility for chats between the defendant and the victim, including one that he told the girl to hurry up after learning she was a minor. Bell then apologized in court.
I accept this plea because my conduct was wrong. I'm sorry that the victim was harmed in any way, but that was obviously not my intention. I have taken this matter very, very seriously. And again, I just want to apologize to her and anyone else who may have been affected by my actions.
A grown man does not engage in inappropriate text messages to a teenager. I hope you truly are remorseful. I don't know. You are going to get 1 year on the felony 4, 6 months on the misdemeanor. They'll run concurrent by operation of law. I will suspend the imposition of the sentence. You will be subject to 2 years community control sanctions.
Joining us today is criminal defense attorney Bernardo Villalona and Terry Austin. Bernardo, what do you expect probation will look like for Bell?
So what is probation? Probation is a court order that the judge is giving him community supervised supervision. So what's going to look like for him? I'm sure probably they're going to be checking on him at his home. They can pop up at any time. He's going to have to report to probation at least one time a month. Maybe they'll give him a curfew. Maybe they'll do drug tests on him. Maybe they'll put him in some kind of program that they think would be beneficial to him. But what I tell you this is that if he violates any of the terms of probation, he can be facing going back to jail.
Absolutely. Terry, is this sentence just a slap on the wrist? Should the prosecution and judge have listened to the victim's request at the end of the day for more time?
There's no question that this was definitely a slap on the wrist. Even the sentence that the judge originally imposed, the 1 year for the attempted child endangerment and the 6 months for disseminating matter that was harmful to a child, that is low as far as the scheme of things is concerned. So that was suspended, and now he's only going to serve 2 years probation. So even though it seemed as if the defendant was remorseful, he said all the right words, but we heard the judge say he wasn't sure if that was sincere. And frankly, he didn't seem sincere to me either.
All right, so there it is for Drake Bell getting 2 years of probation for the allegations no longer, but for the crime of disseminating materials to a minor. Thank you both. Turning now to other top legal news, federal prosecutors want the identities of R. Kelly's alleged victims to remain secret. The assistant U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of New York filing the motion over the weekend, 5 weeks before the start of the disgraced R&B singer's trial on charges he trafficked and sexually abused multiple young women, including minors. The prosecutor says the decision is reasonable, necessary, and appropriate to protect the safety and well-being of the women. R. Kelly's trial begins August 18th. He's also being trialed on separate sex abuse charges in Chicago. And in Texas, a now former Atlanta Falcons linebacker is facing charges for sexually abusing a teenage boy. Police in Arlington filing the charges over the weekend. They say the incident happened in the summer of 2019, but they learned about it in January when the boy's mother contacted them. Authorities say the athlete invited a teen family member and another teen to hang out at several amusement parks and stay at a hotel where the alleged abuse occurred. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, real estate heir Robert Durst on trial, while there's another pause in the testimony. But first, the defense of a Colorado man calls into question the state's cadaver dogs. But is the evidence more bark than bite? You decide next. Welcome back. An expert calls into question the reliability of the dogs used to search for Dylan Redwine after he went missing. Law and Crime's Anjanette Levy is here with what an expert in animal behavior said in Mark Redwine's trial.
Brian, this zoologist said that these dogs can oftentimes do things simply to please their handlers, and he faced a pretty tough cross-examination by prosecutors.
Dr. James Haw testified on behalf of Mark Redwine, answering questions about why a search dog may not have picked up a scent to track Dylan Redwine off of something from his dad's house, but did get a scent from items from his mother's home.
Would the pillow from Dad's house, even if it had been used by Dylan, have been perceived differently by the dogs than the items from Mom's house?
It's my opinion that there's a very strong chance that that would be true, yes.
Prosecutors have implied Dylan Redwine died before he had a chance to use the pillow at his dad's house that was given to a dog to pick up his scent. A cadaver dog indicated the scent of death in Mark Redwine's truck, in his home, and on Mark Redwine's clothing. But he said the dogs detect decomposition of skin cells and other bodily fluids.
Can you say with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty whether Ms. Corcoran Gumming's dog was sensing a dead body or something else in Mr. Redwine's house 109 days after Dylan went missing?
I cannot say that.
Dr. Haas said he believed the cadaver dog's results were inconclusive when it came to whether a dead body had come into contact with Mark Redwine's clothing or truck because of the amount of time that had passed. Prosecutors questioned his credentials.
You have no certified human remains detection handling experience, correct?
That's correct.
Dr. Ha conceded he has no expertise in how search or cadaver dogs are trained and certified, nor had he seen the dogs work.
I am addressing the value of the evidence from the scientific point of view on basic principles of dog cognition and learning.
Now, Dr. Ha agreed that dogs have a much better sense of smell than people do, and they can simply pick up things that people cannot. But he also seemed skeptical of some claims by other experts that the scent of decomposition can remain for as long as 660 days after remains are moved from a location. And there was a question about whether the dogs could still pick up that scent. The prosecution says they can. The defense skeptical about that. Brian?
Thanks, Anjanette. Let's bring back criminal defense attorney Bernardo Villalona and Terry Austin to discuss dog detection. Anjanette, Dr. Ha talked about cueing. What did he mean by that?
You know, he was trying to say that, a dog might do something that its owner wants it to do. Say you put the dog by the truck. Well, maybe the dog will go over to the truck and get really excited because he feels that his handler or his owner wants him to do that so that they are rewarded. So he was trying to say that maybe there were some cueing involved in this investigation by the cadaver dog and possibly even a search dog. But the prosecution really questioned him about that. And as you heard, he said he doesn't really have any expertise on how these dogs are trained or how they are certified.
It's almost like a false positive. A dog is supposed to cue or sit down when they detect something. Maybe they do that just to please their owner and not actually detect the substance. I can see that. No, but Terry, did the defense's expert create any reasonable doubt in these pooches' performance?
I did think there was some doubt created, although he kept saying that he's this animal behavior expert and not a canine detection expert. So that really discredits most of what he had to say. But what Anjanette said really makes sense. A dog cues because they might be pointed in a certain direction. So there's some doubt because the jury's probably thinking, that's probably correct. And he also talked about this residual odor. I thought that made sense as well, that how could it last for so long? But on the other hand, the prosecution said, we know for a fact that Molly, this dog, did cue or point to a particular indication many, many days after the fact. So I don't know. It's some doubt, but is it reasonable doubt?
Yeah, Bernardo, there seems to be some back and forth. Did the defense's expert survive the prosecution's cross-examination at the end of the day, though?
No, not at all. The prosecution did an excellent job in cross-examining this expert, especially when the prosecution pointed out that this expert never looked at any of the training of this dog to see whether this dog was equipped to do these types of tests or what background training of his handler. So I think without having looked at that, the expert did lose credibility in terms of all the opinions that he formed.
All right, we'll see how the credibility of this witness continues as Law&Crime covers the Mark Redwine trial. And now to check in on our other ongoing trial at the Law&Crime Network. Court is now on break on Monday for Robert Durst as some of the jurors have other appointments. The real estate heir is accused of shooting his best friend, Susan Berman, in December 2000. Prosecutors are still calling witnesses as the month-long trial progresses. Last week, attorneys were reading transcripts from Durst's 2003 Galveston, Texas trial for the death of his neighbor, Morris Black. Testimony is set to resume on Tuesday. Coming up on Law&Crime Daily, foiled attack on the MLB All-Star Game or drug and gun bust. The Denver police raid that found a small arsenal steps from a stadium. Plus, a public records request in the Breonna Taylor case. Could the Louisville Metro Police Department have lied about body cam video evidence? A family's lawsuit next. Welcome back. A new lawsuit has been filed in the Breonna Taylor case. The attorney for her family is now claiming police lied about the existence of body cam video from the deadly raid and is demanding the department hand it over. Attorney Sam Aguiar claims the attorneys that breached Taylor's door had been issued body cameras that would have turned on automatically. He's now asking a judge to compel the Louisville Metro Police Department to disclose and produce public records of the audit trial logs for the cameras. Aguiar helped Taylor's family reach a $12 million wrongful death settlement with the city. Taylor was shot and killed inside her apartment last March. Aguiar says 6 of the officers were issued body cams. Local news have reported Officer Miles Cosgrove was photographed wearing a mounting bracket for a body camera without the actual camera being attached. Another officer, Anthony James, has stated on the record that he failed to turn on his own camera and that the other officers were not wearing theirs. Joining us to discuss the latest surrounding the death of Breonna Taylor is criminal defense attorney Bernardo Villalona and co-host Terry Austin. Terry, this looks like another attempt to get video the Taylor family believes exists. Could this answer whether or not there is a video in this case?
It really could, Brian. I mean, the family and the public, for that matter, deserve to know the entire situation. And if there's more body cam, they need to be able to see that. So they're bringing this action under the Open Records Act in Kentucky, which basically says that any person can make a request to see public records. And if that request is denied, they can bring an action to get those records to them. So I think it's a shame that we have to have another lawsuit. It's a waste of public dollars, but I think they have every right to bring that action so we can see the full picture.
Bernardo, break it down so we can see the full picture. Does this mean there is video out there? And if so, what could the implications be?
So what we're looking at, if there is video that is out there, we're not sure. We don't know. Obviously, a lot happened that night that we still don't know. However, what this action is forcing the government to actually do is to put on the record, is there more video out there? Present us with the audio trail to see if we can actually track those body camera. And if there is, let's see what happens. Would the prosecutor's office step in and going to present the case to the grand jury? We don't know. We know we didn't get that from Daniel Cameron, but who's to say he'll be the AG at the next election? Because remember, there is no statute of limitation when it comes to homicide.
Yeah, so a lot to figure out here. This could give us so much more information where we've had so little when it comes to the death of Breonna Taylor. Thank you, everyone, for your input. When we come back, not all heroes wear capes. Some fold towels, provide room service, and help make major drug and gun busts. The new kind of heroes you don't want to miss, next. Welcome back. The suspect accused in a triple shooting that ended on a Georgia golf course is being held in jail without bond. Brian Roden is facing 3 counts of murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault, and 2 counts of kidnapping. Police in Georgia say Roden killed 2 men, bounding their hands and legs and mouths with tape, then put their bodies in the bed of a pickup truck. Roden is then accused of driving onto a golf course and fatally shooting golf pro Gene Siller. Roden has not yet entered a plea.
We have recovered weapons and we have recovered narcotics. Anything beyond that, speculating as to what an individual's intent is, they can't do that. We can't do that.
Denver police remain tight-lipped on the motive of the 3 men and 1 woman facing drug and weapons charges arrested inside of a hotel just steps away from Coors Field. It happened Friday night ahead of this week's Major League Baseball's All-Star Game. An initial media report cites one source who said police feared an incident similar to the deadly mass shooting at a Las Vegas music festival in 2017. But now, KMGH-TV reports police recovered 16 long guns and more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition in a possible trade of drugs and weapons. Denver officials credit a maid at the Maven Hotel for alerting authorities. Several news outlets report the maid spotted one of the guns in a room. Just a drug deal and a gun deal. Don't worry. Those are words I never thought I would say, but here we are. Bernardo, you're a former prosecutor. How do you investigate this case to make sure it's about guns and drugs and not about an attack on the MLB All-Star Game?
So, Brian, the way to start is definitely collecting the cell phones. And I'm sure that the prosecution, actually, the government has already taking the cell phones and getting search warrants for those cell phones and start tracking what the messages are, as well as the history as to where these parties have been prior to getting to that location. In addition to that is their social media presence, as well as GPS locations for the vehicle that they may have traveled to that location. There's so much that they can do. It's just going to take a little bit of time in order to get the information, but I'm sure that the government will be able to see in a matter of days exactly what was being planned for that specific day. Was it a gun deal, drug deal, or was it a planned massacre?
Yeah, and I'm sure that the defense is probably going to want to participate to the fullest extent to ensure that it's a gun and drug deal rather than terrorist charges, because those are very different. Now, Terry, they bring you coffee in the morning, they clean your linens, and it seems they also make major crime busts. These housekeepers seem to be able to do it all, right?
You know what, Brian? You cannot underscore the importance of if you see something, say something. And that's exactly what this individual did. And just seeing the gun alarmed her, and the volume, the sheer volume, 16 long guns and 1,000 rounds of ammunition, that is really frightening. And as Bernarda said, and she correctly said this, they are going to look at all social media. They're going to look at the telephones. And we did see that on Facebook, there was one post that said he was going to go out for one of the defendants in a big way. So you have to wonder what was being planned. Was it just a gun deal, or was there something else that was planned?
All right, so as we said, there are 3 men and 1 woman arrested thanks to the tip from a housekeeper in a hotel and quick thinking from the police officers. Bernarda, Terry, thank you very much for joining us here at Law&Crime Daily. And thank you for joining us here as always. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.